I think we're having people joining our session right now. So Dwight, if you want, I can kick off with sort of a quick intro and turn it over to you.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, okay. So for those of you joined already, and as people join, my name's Kim Johnson. I'm the Director of Marketing. I'm here, Dwight's really the one leading this presentation today, but if you have any questions that are related to marketing or any questions for us, please include it in the chat. And I'm going to help make sure that Dwight gets to all of them today and chime in here and there if needed. But I'm really going to turn it over to Dwight, who's leading the session. Dwight is the CTO of Igor. Igor is a smart building technology company. We're an IoT platform that brings things together onto really into the Internet of Things to manage all your systems and devices in one place for your entire building. However, this is not Dwight's first go around as an entrepreneur. He previously founded QAS, which was also in the building management, analytics, and energy space. So he has a lot of experience being an entrepreneur in growing companies and being an innovator in the clean tech industry. So we're lucky to have him with us at the Igor team, and this has really been his vision from day one. And I'm very excited as well to hear about this. We all are dealing with the impact of COVID-19 on our businesses. And as we're adjusting to what the future will hold and how to overcome this particular challenge, it's benefited companies who are quick to pivot. So, or pivot or add, or we'll hear today. I think you guys are done hearing from me. So I'm going to turn over to Dwight to kick off and tell the story came around to this innovative product during a time of crisis.
Thanks, Kim. Appreciate that. And thanks, everyone, for coming and learning something about not only what we can do to and the thought process behind how to respond to what's going on in the pandemic, but also just thinking about how to build product and kind of at least the approach that we've taken in doing so. So I'm going to just talk about the situation that we were met with, that the world was met with, and then how we thought about it and how to decide to respond to it, and some of the lessons learned. What went right, what went wrong, and just kind of our story and experience with all of this. So first off, the challenge, as we all know, was in that COVID hit unexpectedly, and depending on how you view it, it was unexpected. But the March timeframe, things shut down for most everyone, and it gave everyone, including us, a chance to kind of just reflect on what could we do as a response to better the world. How can we take what technologies we built and put it to use in a way that it can help the world get out of this, but then also, from a perspective of what the opportunity is beyond this, because the world obviously is changing, accelerating in some trends or reversing in some other trends, and gave us a chance to really reflect upon that. So our focus primarily, just because of, as Kim said, we're an IoT platform that is focused on indoor environments, and our premise is to digitally and sustainably advance the human condition within buildings. So with that in mind, we don't want to deviate from our purpose as a company too much, and it really wasn't a reason to, because a lot of the issue was within buildings, and technology can be a tool and an asset to really target those particular environments and improve them. So we thought about, what kind of things can we do there? Well, there's lots of opportunities. So let's boil it down a little bit. First off, there's lots of ways to minimize the risk in the workplace. And if we look at anything from extremely effective to less effective, but business impact, doing things that are easy versus doing things that are more expensive and difficult. So all the way up at the top, if we look at this hierarchy of risk, which we're just applying this hierarchy of risk to this particular situation, but looking at PPE, protective gear, wearing masks. That's pretty easy to do, although it could be argued it's hard, more controversial than it needs to be, I guess. Then we start going down this list, and you look at engineering controls into spaces, which is really where we focus on, and how the space itself could be modified to be more conducive to creating a healthier environment. And then as we continue to go down, it's thinking of just using eliminating workers except for the critical jobs, and having people work from home, and then just completely eliminating exposure for everyone. We're in complete isolation, which is where we were in March, because no one knew how to respond, and we didn't know what the ramifications, how the virus acted. And so to kind of just pause and kind of shake out the details, the world went into obviously a lockdown that is very disruptive. So that really is an example of, at that bottom, extreme disruption, but very effective from at least the standpoint of, but when you are effective for health, and you're that effective for health, you sacrifice pretty much everything else. When we come up with a solution that balances both being effective, but also doesn't sacrifice all the objectives that we also have, which are staying in business, and the economy continuing, and people having mental health and being able to still socialize together and things like that. So finding that balance, really the middle ground, right? That's where doing things that go into that middle area works out pretty well. And that's where we decided we wanted to focus on something that could be effective, yet not require a huge amount of sacrifice in it. So it was effectively the definition of being practical, right? So if we look at indoor spaces, what kind of context can we be effective as a company? Our technology, by being an IoT platform, we looked at, well, what are the most high risk areas? What are for this particular problem, which is people contracting it from one another? There's multiple ways that can happen. One is through air, one is through surface, and those are the primary forms. And depending on if you're, it's really those shared spaces indoors that we saw as the most at-risk areas. So if you're in a private office and it's only one person that's ever in that office, that's not as much of an issue, unless, of course, you're having cleaning staff go in there, and then that's an opportunity between people to contaminate. But if you can, looking at prioritization of which spaces are the biggest problems, and then moving down from there, it's where people are together at the same time, and then there might be a time where they cycle out and another group of people go into that same space, and there might have been something left behind that then now that new group of people get the virus. So those are the vulnerable spaces. Also, I should mention that when you look at these spaces, it's also challenging to, when people are all in the same space together, to beyond just masks, to really cleanse the air in real time, and those kind of things. But there's still opportunity to create mitigating methods to reduce, not necessarily eliminate, but reduce the risk. And then we also saw that of all the technologies that we could attach to our platform, there's no perfect solution, right? Even if you had an army of people that were wiping everything down every single day, there are studies that show that once you get into that rhythm, actually only about 50% of the surface is clean, because as you're wiping that surface, there's just areas that aren't touched by the wipes or aren't perfectly sanitized because you're wiping too fast. So there's no magic bullet that's perfect, but there's ways to do better, and it's just like masks or anything else. So the goal isn't to seek a perfect solution, it's to improve meaningfully, move the meter enough to justify investing in a technology deployment that puts you in a better place and provides meaningful impact. So, for us, the decision was, a lot of it was based on how, there's lots of different ways that we could have an impact. So with all these things that, in mind, is to, you have these shared spaces, we're focused, our technology is well suited for indoor spaces. So that's the magic sweet spot we need to focus on. But should we focus on indoor air quality? Should we focus on surface contamination? Should we look at ways to reduce people from being too close to one another? Should we look at ways to reduce the number of people in a room? There's lots of different ways that we could take our technology and apply it. One of the major qualifications in making a decision here is longevity of it. I sincerely hoped and believed that we would have been through this by now. So when thinking about this in March, I wanted something that would be relevant beyond just COVID and would have benefit from years to come. So this might be the catalyst. COVID might be the catalyst to someone making a decision and investing in a deployment. But if that's the only reason, it probably wouldn't be good enough to invest into it. And there's so much benefit that if we provide the right technology and the right solution, that it could have lasting benefit well beyond this. So with that criteria, really thought, the contact tracing, for instance, and making sure people being able to know who saw who. If you look back and you found out someone had the virus, then all right, who did they contact? That probably isn't relevant in a typical flu season. It's not, people aren't going to go through that effort. Being able to use camera recognition, for instance, to know you're wearing a mask, probably not relevant in flu season, although I don't know, there's a lot more conversation about that now, but I would imagine at some point in time we move away from that. Being able to have enough people in a room, or having too many people in a room, that might be something that makes sense. And the idea that just have cleaner spaces, healthier environments, whether it's the air or surface, that pretty much will always be relevant. So that's what we decided to focus on. We decided that it would be good to we call it our intelligent disinfectant solution. It's able to take, and I'll go into the innovation here, where it's UV light that is able to blast into the room. And there's fixtures that are enabled and installed into that particular space that then transmit UVC light, and that will disinfect the surfaces as well as the air in that room itself. And as long as the room, there's no one else in that room, which we've created a process and a strategy with sensors that kind of just package this all up as a turnkey solution that can be dropped into classrooms and to private offices and conference rooms, and private offices that would be shared, that on those particular, then when someone closes the door and it senses that there's no one in the room, then the system turns on, and within a matter of minutes, it would disinfect that area, so that it is, for the next group of people that walk in, it's not a threat, it's not a risk. And that just makes it a really simple, from our perspective, a turnkey solution, the capacity to be a turnkey solution that can be just dropped in. One of the other qualifications that I should have mentioned is we wanted something that could scale really easily and quickly throughout a market so that we could have a larger impact as fast as possible. Obviously, the time frame was very short, and to deploy, to spin up manufacturing and to spin up the ability to distribute and service and install sites. So it had to be something that was turnkey and simple to understand and to disseminate within a marketplace. So one of the benefits of our technology is that we leverage power over Ethernet, and by just being a quick disconnect RJ45 connection, that we can bundle an application server as well as the Ethernet cabling and the different parts and pieces, the sensors, the lights, all that would be using and connected via RJ45 and Ethernet. And by doing that, it creates a very simple, well understood package that can just be replicated site to site and room by room. So that's really the focus that we had. And we call it our intelligent disinfectant solution. It's by bundling it in that way, it makes it very simple. And also the processes are just out of the box, just work. So for instance, it will go through a schedule at night that, let's say if you're a school, let's say if you're an office, it can just go through a schedule at night and disinfect, and you can get that really deep disinfection. But then also during the day between, let's say it's a conference room in between scheduled events, then you can have a touch screen on the outside of the room and allows people to close the room after, and it's verified by using people counting sensors, motion sensors. No one's in the room. It has a door contact closure sensor, so it verifies the door's been closed. And even though UVC light is a form of light, it is a certain wavelength that does not penetrate through windows. So even if the conference room is just glass walls, it doesn't matter, because the UVC still stays within that room. And so as long as that room is closed at that point, and we have sensors to verify it's closed and empty, you just press disinfect. It goes through the process of disinfecting, shows you a countdown of how much time is left, and then just says it's clean. And then all that data is also sent back to a service that allows for auditing, where we also saw, and it really hasn't been, there's incidences of litigation that's becoming pretty intense, although it's not nearly as widespread as probably thought when this first started. But the data can be very valuable to help just verify and promote that took steps to mitigate, and at least you're making an effort. You're incorporating it into best practices. It's automated and self-verified versus other manual methods such as workers coming into a room and cleaning. So those are all, that becomes a valuable tool just from not only a litigation standpoint, but also from employees and reporting to know from an HR perspective, the system's working, it's being done as expected, and it's providing the benefit that is desired. So also to kind of touch on, what didn't work and what did work. So when you think about when we embarked on this, we were very thoughtful in what kind of solution that we're developing, and we measured a number and prioritized it based on a number of different factors. There's a lot of different moving pieces in the solution. So, but luckily and to our benefit, we chose to use modules and parts and pieces that were already part of our solution. So for instance, a motion sensor, using lights, using wall controls and people counting sensors, all those things we had already done. The thing that we hadn't done before was UVC lighting. And that required a lot of getting into some really nitty-gritty specifics. So the wavelength of the UVC actually matters a lot. And some wavelengths will have a much greater impact on the virus than others. There was very little research done on that. And we had to make the best choice we could on choosing the UVC light, and in some ways we got lucky. We ended up trying to choose one that had the most effect on DNA. which is known to be the 265 nanometer wavelength. Well, it turns out that, because this virus acts very similar to other viruses, that it also was most susceptible to that same wavelength. However, most people don't know to even think about that. So from a market standpoint, you have the opportunity for a huge amount of market confusion, and to many companies, that's an advantage. To many companies that are just trying to get snake oil out to the market as fast as possible and take advantage of the opportunity, that's fantastic that there's market confusion. And we saw a significant amount of product that was just being sold from anywhere in the world that was making all kinds of claims. So that quickly created a lot of customer confusion, but also pause and hesitation that resulted in questioning, because we're talking to enterprise. Most of our customers are enterprise customers and savvy. So these customers, they would see that there were claims being made by other products and that those other products were bogus. So then they would come back and require that we provided evidence that we are different and that we are indeed what we're saying we're doing, we're actually doing, and that takes third-party validation. That takes someone who's credible, that is well respected in the industry, to say, yes, they are doing the right thing, and we'll put their mark on them. So as Igor, we went to our provider for the UVCs, and we required them to show that they are indeed, by going through certifications, that their LEDs affect COVID specifically, even though it was clear that it affected every other virus. People want to know it affected COVID specifically. That process took a long time, even after the product was to market. So then we had some sales put basically on pause, because we're waiting for that validation to come through before we can really sell in a meaningful way through channels. And we have very large channel partners that want to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed before they put their name on it as well. So we went through that process, and then also verifying that the emission of the UVC, since it's invisible, making sure that it's actually at the intensity that is expected, so that it's because it's really a certain amount of energy that hits the virus for a certain and so either that energy can be so much over a certain period of time, or it can be all at once, but it's basically a certain amount of energy has to hit that virus to deactivate it. So we then went through testing at UL, which is extremely well respected. They have all the equipment, and when they put their stamp of approval on something, then that's meaningful. So with those two things, in which we now have checked in our list of to-do items, that was huge and hugely beneficial. So then the next thing that was a hurdle, which what didn't work really, but is getting that first customer and getting that momentum started, I guess, from a standpoint of a product deliverable and rollout. So that was a very exciting moment for us to start doing deployments and being able to showcase those as well, which really brings to what did work. And with having those deployments that now can be showcases, that's hugely helpful. And then from a standpoint of looking at, now that we have this out in the wild, as they say, now we maintain it. Now we have the technology that we continue to package up and deliver to the market. And one of the things I'm really happy about is we focused from the very beginning on what does our technology do, and let's stay close to that. Let's not deviate too far from that core platform and the core value and vision that we have. So that way it's not a distraction. It's really just something else in our portfolio, but it's not a distraction. And so we're able to leverage our IoT software platform. We're able to can use this as a starting point because we're primarily focused on disinfection of the air and the surface, but we can also easily add people counting sensors and then connect to, let's say in a conference room, we can take that information and even integrate with the audiovisual system from, let's say, Cisco, and be able to display on the Cisco panel that there's too many people in this room and someone should be leaving. And then also data log that information so that people historically can look back and say, all right, a lot of people want to be in this room. Maybe we need to increase the size of these rooms. So if 7 people want to be in this room, that we really only want 3 people in, well, we double the size of the room and now we can have 7 people in that room, but they're just spaced in such a way that it's okay. So the data can be really valuable, and then integration with other systems, it can also be valuable. And our platform is well positioned for both of those things. So this particular application, when thinking about what to do and how to address COVID, it really seemed like a great synergy and a great bolt-on and a way to introduce our platform to customers such that they can grow into it to solve other problems that they have within their business. So very synergistic. And then it also leveraged our industry relationships. So being able to sell through the channels that we already have established, and companies like Cisco and all the different ITC companies that we work with all the time, and systems integrators. And we have a very large group and partner program of ecosystem partners that we've established over the years. So this was something, a lot of those partners were also looking for how do they adjust their business models in the COVID crisis. And so for us to be able to provide them new capabilities that are relevant to their customers, it not only helped us and the customer and end users, but also the channel, and kept them being able to be relevant during this time. And obviously strengthen their relationships with their end customers because they're bringing solutions that are meaningful to their end customers. So overall, we're really just beginning this journey. I see it as a solution that not only today is relevant once again for COVID, but I think unfortunately we're seeing these epidemics happen more and more frequently, and just even the common flu and other viruses, it's going to be more and more expected that buildings are being treated as a health and safety concern, and people are taking measures, because otherwise I frequently say if there's a lot of things that you can do at home and people have already adjusted to that. So a building has to be able to provide value to justify the commute and the lease of a building. And the building could become and should be a cultural center for your business and your organization, and a collaboration center. And there's a lot of value in that. And just humans in general want to socialize, but you have to have these kind of things in place, or it's going to be more detrimental than helpful. So if there's any questions, I know Kim, you're kind of looking for that. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got a couple, Dwight, and I would just say I think you've done a great job laying it out. Really some of the key leadership decisions you made was to make sure we weren't overextending into unknown territory, and that we leveraged what we had, which was being a software-based company with a great ecosystem, that we could leverage our partners, an agile culture so that we could turn this around pretty quickly. And I just want to clarify to everyone, while they were creating the product, I was creating the marketing. So it was very much this synergistic, had to stay in touch, because as the product evolved, the message evolved, and everything had to come together to launch it in about 6 weeks. And like Dwight said, the launch wasn't necessarily the end of the development. It was the availability and then the additional hurdles like the testing and the proof and the market being flooded with really subpar products, trying to take advantage of people's fears, certainly provided challenges to us. But yeah, we're very excited about the long-term opportunities. We're not creating something for just this moment. It's hopefully something that can continue to be of interest and help people return to work and collaborate. So we do have some questions here, Dwight. Would you talk about, and I can add my 2 cents here too, but who are the primary customers you're targeting with UV decontamination? Healthcare, other industries, can it be retrofitted into existing infrastructure?
Great questions. So, and by the way, to dovetail onto what Kim was saying earlier, I focused the presentation primarily on product development, but yeah, we would have war room type regular meetings that were other parts of the company bringing everyone together and thinking, and because to bring something quickly to market, you can't wait for the product to be done before you start marketing and those kind of things. So yeah, with our product, we're really focused on any place where you can have a turnkey, very clear space that can be a turnkey package solution, which would be healthcare. It would be a patient room. It would be, a senior care residence. In healthcare and senior care in particular is a focus area of our company anyway. Then another focus area of our company is already schools, particularly K through 12 schools. So doing a classroom kit was a natural, easy fit. Office is another one of our focus verticals that we focus on. So doing a conference room kit, doing a office, even an open office. We do have another way of when someone is approaching a space, like an open space, that you turn off the light before you come in range of the light. And then hospitality is the other area that we really focus on. So doing in-room cleaning, where between, even when someone's staying at a hotel and then they leave and then the house cleaners come in and then they clean, you want to be able to decontaminate as much as possible between those two moments in time so that one person's not getting it from the other. So those are primarily the focus areas that we have.
Yeah, I think the key is that it needs to be a space where there will be a point in time in which there won't be people. So there's a couple instances where, some areas of healthcare facilities wouldn't be the best fit for this, because if someone's on a ventilator 24/7, that's not the time to do it. We have to really make sure people aren't there. And that's been, from a marketing messaging point of view, we've had to be a lot more FAQ focused. I've learned so much about UVC because, you see that news release about a little UVC robot going into hotel rooms. But the problem is you have to know it's there and you have to know when it's done, and someone accidentally walking in, you can get burned very quickly. Blindness can occur, and we have seen accidents. So safety was a huge part, even from the beginning, before these accidents became a part of the news story. We've taken safety very seriously. So we're in it for the long game. And what I think is really exciting is Dwight's built the company on this sort of Lego piece idea that you can kind of continue adding technologies once you have a PoE backbone and Igor's platform installed. So to me, it's no surprise our first customers are people who already had our technology, maybe controlling their lighting and their sensors and some basics in their building, because they had the infrastructure. For them, it was just adding one piece to their system with our software automations and additions. Suddenly they have UVC intelligent disinfection. And Dwight, as you mentioned, he's kitted it so that you can do per classroom or per hotel room.
And to the question of being able to retrofit easily, that is definitely one of the advantages here, is because it's a low voltage class 2 electrical device, which means it doesn't have to be installed by an electrician. It's power over Ethernet. And it's as simple as, you see retrofits all the time for other power over Ethernet infrastructure, whether it's Wi-Fi hotspots or voice over IP or so forth. Obviously, there is some cabling that needs to be installed, so it's not completely uninvasive. But people are looking right now and spending the time and effort and the cost because it does have enough value that people are addressing how can they make a healthier environment. And so you're seeing different technologies right now, at the very beginning, and even right now, people are just throwing bodies at it in the sense of just manpower and or human power in general. And so by addressing it that way, it's not a really sustainable, automated, auditable type process, but at least it's just fixing a short-term problem. But as we move into, this is hopefully not, COVID and the way we're acting right now isn't the new normal, but taking health seriously is going to be a new normal. And this is something that, also doesn't have moving parts, like a robot would have moving parts. And it's something that is, once again, low cost from an install perspective.
Yeah. It's not promising the world, but it's a critical piece to maybe the long-term health and safety of people in the workplace. Dwight, we did get another question here about scaling the operation. Obviously, that's a major goal for any growing company, from startup to scale up to established company. And in relation to this product as well, do you have concerns about growing too fast? Maybe talk about a few of the growing pains in that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So especially when there's thinking about the critical path, I don't have concerns about growing too fast in some ways, and I would have concerns in other ways. So for instance, the UVC light, which we were just queuing up and manufacturing and, helped the design of it. And some of the things that we did that were very unique. So we didn't want to just take an off-the-shelf UVC fixture because the ones that are available are line voltage and are not power over Ethernet. So we created one with a partner that is a manufacturing partner who does light fixtures all the time. That helped by using someone that's well entrenched and understands the process of manufacturing and design. That helped us eliminate and mitigate those risks. And they already had facilities to be able to scale rapidly. So that helped quite a bit. And I didn't even mention, but some of the things that we really thought about and were very thoughtful of is, once again, UVC is invisible. So we wanted a light fixture that we designed with this third-party company that emits blue light and such that when it's activated, you can see the blue light coming out of it, and that makes you aware that that it's on, because you don't want it to be any chance of misinterpreting that. So yeah, I think that was our critical path and weakest point in our manufacturing and delivery mechanism. From a standpoint of channel partners, we're able to leverage those and scale very quickly. But disseminating the right marketing message, and Kim could probably talk most to that, it was one of the bigger challenges, and just keeping people aware of what we do, how we do it, and not playing the telephone game so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was an especially challenging marketing experience in a great way. It was picking out conveying the message that was both high level and easy to understand, while having all of the scientific resources to back up and prove and ensure that our claims were real. I think when the fact that we got involved in manufacturing the lighting and had a much heavier hand in the production of it than we normally do was in part because the reputation of our company did rest on making sure we had a good fixture. And from a marketing perspective, you want a good reputation. It's a lot of money to overcome a bad reputation. So our standards were very high. And so Dwight actually had to take more of a lead in making sure the actual hardware fit what we wanted, and helped them design and execute on the vision we had, so that we felt comfortable maintaining our quality, and that helped with the quality messaging. It meant that projects began a little more slowly, but we would have rather had that than be in the headlines with some sort of problem. I do see a question about disinfecting PPE. UVC lighting will disinfect any surface. It has to be in line with the light. So something folded over, the thing that's folded underneath won't get disinfected. That's just the nature of UVC. Any UVC disinfection process has that issue. So we are really looking at the whole room in this space. So any surfaces, things that are exposed to this light in the space, and that includes particles in the air, will be disinfected. And so if if an N95 mask is laying there and it's in the line of the UVC, it will be disinfected.
And we have situations where, let's say in bathrooms, and people are starting to design bathrooms now where they're not as much of a stall, but they would be individual rooms just so that they can incorporate the UVC as effectively as possible. But from a retrofit perspective, that you could put the UVC light on the wall inside the stall so that you can surface disinfect and then do it from the angles that are most beneficial as well.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, from our knowledge of UVC, it could be incorporated into card scanners, card readers. We're that software platform. We've designed it to help with the large space problem. But any device that's low voltage can also be connected and controlled, and you can potentially even see how often a card scanner is using UVC if you had a product that works with our open API and our open platform. So I think it's certainly, I think that's something we again can leverage and say to partners, oh, you've got this particular product like people counting or people tracing or asset tracking that you want to incorporate into our platform. We can do that. And then it's really easy to connect the automations to say, if you have asset tracking on your IDs at work, then all the assets are out of the room, so to speak, and there's no motion and the door is shut. Then you've got your checklist, and then maybe we can then automate the disinfection. Yes, we are hiring a ton. Check out our careers page, igor-tech.com, to see about working with us. We definitely are. That's been great to make sure the emphasis on culture here is something that helps us with our scaling as well, I think. So I don't know, Dwight, any closing thoughts here?
Yeah, I thought, back to the growth, we've just been incredibly fortunate. I mean, talk about a yo-yo of a year, but we're going to end the year with growth of 100% over last year. So doubling in our revenue, which is quite a statement. And a lot of it is based on just making sure this solution, as well as anything else that we do other life safety type solutions like lighting, and just being very thoughtful and thinking about all the different corner cases and how we cover those, and then creating ways that it can be, once again, kitted as easily, as much as it possibly can be, so that it can just be turnkey and delivered to the market and scale. And that allows that you have the same thing over and over again out in the industry, out in the wild, and that makes it so that you can focus your product development efforts as much as possible, so you don't have unique things for individual customers, but you have the same thing that then you can continue to iterate and it benefits everyone. So I've been really, really happy for where we have been able to take advantage of our platform. And as Kim was saying, I always like to say Lego pieces, and we have so many different types of Lego pieces now that it gives us a huge flexibility and optionality as to what we build, and allows us to do it easily and effectively. So it's a really fun time here at Igor. And I appreciate everyone, spending the time to learn about how we've approached things.
All right, well, thank you. I think that's it. Hopefully you all know how to reach us if you have any questions or inquiries or ideas. We're open, we listen, and we'll catch you next time, hopefully. So I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. Go enjoy your next breakout session or whatever next is on the agenda. And Thank you to the Infotech Conference for, still putting this on and bringing the community together. It's really been a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, and thank you again, Kim and Dwight. I think that was a very meaningful presentation with a lot of innovation in terms of tech and insight into how to market it. Thank you again for your time and spending your session with us today. If you would like to, please fill out the session survey. I put the link in the chat so we can get some feedback on this presentation. And enjoy the rest of your day during Infotech, and check out our next session at 3:15. Thank you.